Hey, that was a lot of fun. Of course, Schwaber. We always got to mess around like that. Welcome to the Sports Porch. This is the Pittsburgh edition. I want to thank you guys for being here. As always, I want to make you very, very aware of something. You can catch us live on theporcheslive.com, theporcheslive.com.
theporcheslive.com.
That's right. You got to say it 3 times. Got to say it 3 times. And whoops, put the Hockey Jesus up there. Also, if you're listening to us on American Busker iHeartRadio, I want to thank you as well. iHeartRadio has 150 million registered users, 2,000 devices, 260 platforms. I'll get that right one of these days. And we drop the podcast after every show on Mondays on the iHeartRadio apps. Apple, Spotify, blah, blah, blah. I was up until 4 a.m, so I'm really tired, guys. So if I'm not completely on my game, the technical director has to apologize up front. But I do want to get this in real quick. Thank you to the Pittsburgh Property Diva, our biggest sponsor and the most beautiful woman in the world, and obviously the best real estate agent, the PittsburghPropertyDiva.com. Thank you so much.
It was so nice when she took us all out for drinks last week. Just kind of, being a great sponsor and all.
I'll bring that up with her, as a matter of fact. And we actually have a comment coming in online already. Robert Whitney, Patrick Peterson to the Berg. What do you all think? Well, listen, guys, we're going to talk about all of that stuff. And I'm going to put this up on the ticker right now. Are the Steelers doing it right? Okay, now we know it's early. They lost Cam Sutton, and they signed Patrick Peterson, which, if you listen to all the scuttlebutt, it's out of character, but first I want to hear what I'm going to let the Hockey Jesus wait. Okay. I'm going to make him wait because he's dying to talk about this. What do you think about that signing? Well, or do you want to talk about the Cam Sutton leaving, or does that matter? Sutton's gone. So Schwaber, the Grand Schwabini, Sutton's gone. They signed Patrick Peterson. What are your thoughts?
Well, my thoughts are they lost a younger corner for an older corner.
Right.
The bottom line is that, Patrick Peterson did have a good year last year. But prior to last year, I think there was a lot of talk of his play kind of declining. It's kind of one of those scenarios where, if my team signs him, I'm trying to convince myself that it's a good idea. But if somebody else signs him, I think, oh, that was kind of dumb. Now, at the same time, though, they didn't really put themselves in any real kind of hole or anything. It was just a 2-year deal. So I think it's okay. I mean, at least they did something on the first day of free agency, which is not something they tend to do. So, I'm okay with it. I mean, the bottom line is they haven't really gotten any worse at this point. They're probably just right about the same right now.
All right, Hockey Jesus, laid on us. Go ahead, buddy.
No, they're definitely not the same. This is definitely a change in what they're thinking. And I think this is actually tipping a little bit of what they're going to be doing in the draft, to be honest with you, because you don't sign a 33-year-old cornerback to a 2-year contract and think he's the solution. He's basically a Band-Aid to put over something that they didn't want to spend for Cam Sutton. Dude, Cam Sutton's not worth $11 million. I'm sorry, but that's a terrible contract to sign him for 3 years at $11 million. That's ridiculous. I mean, he's
Yeah.
not worth that money. That's a terrible signing if you picked him up for that. You're gonna be definitely bitterly disappointed with Cam Sutton's performance at that salary range. The reason the Steelers kept him was because he was affordable and he was okay. And they do have other guys in the secondary who can play, but they're all kind of like, meh. They need to go out and draft a superstar and not put the pressure on him this year to have to perform. And that's what this contract does. I actually think it's pretty brilliant. If it's, I'm assuming it's going to be a 2-year contract worth between 10 and 12 million dollars, probably 8 million of it guaranteed. That's what Peterson wanted. He wanted to play for 2 years. He's at the end of his career. Why not finish up as a Steeler? And who knows, maybe take him into the playoffs one of these two seasons because of his performance. I think he is a player. I think he's maybe a slight upgrade over Cam Sutton, but who knows? Who knows how he'll fit in the Steelers' thinking? But I think overall, I think it was not unlike them to do this, to sign somebody at the end of their career and just get him for cheap, essentially. I think he'll fit in well. I like the signing. I think it's good.
All right. So first of all, DG is in the house as always. Greetings, Sports crew. What's up, DG? And our resident LinkedIn troll, Pat. Cam Sutton was probably a Teak brother.
I never got the handshake from him. Sorry, Pat. I don't think that's true.
Yeah, and I don't think we should reveal that on air anyway, but we just did. So I think that you're right. I think that 11 million for Cam Sutton, and Schwaber and I have been talking about this. These salaries for players that are just at grade or a little above grade, they seem to be getting a little out of control. And defenses really, I think, are they're scrambling now because it's such a pass heavy league now, and so it's really hard. I don't care if you're the best cornerback of all time, you're still not 100% effective. So that's one thing. Peterson actually, on a terrible Minnesota defense last year, had 5 interceptions, 15 passes defensed, and his QBR against was, and I know we don't all put a lot of stock in that, it was only 77. So he was the bright spot on that defense. And as a veteran cornerback, I think it's a good move for the Steelers. I definitely do. The real question, I'll pose this to you, Steve, is does the draft change with the Peterson signing, or do you think that indicates that they're more along the lines of Joey Porter Jr. or the best available corner at, number 17? Which way do you think this goes?
Well, I mean, first to your point about the salaries, you're right. I mean, Darius Slay's going to make $26 million this year for Philadelphia. That's a ridiculous price to pay for one person. But I mean, if he's the best at his position, you're paying TJ Watt, about the same, $29 million to rush the quarterback. So, at $11 million though, just to hear me out here, at $11 million, they're basically saying he's as good as Stephon Gilmore. There's no way Cam Sutton's as good as Stephon Gilmore is. I mean, that's just or Jair Alexander. I mean, he's not that good. So to let Cam Sutton go is actually a great thing. And I get it. Like in a couple years, there'll be 6 more people above him and that whole thing. And the Minka thing is, if you can look at Minka's salary now and be like, they signed him at a good time. They probably did, because Minka's held his value. I don't think Cam Sutton's value is going to go up. He was playing on a really good defense already that had a really good rush to the quarterback, so he didn't have to hold the coverage for very long. And he was okay at it, but I just don't think he's worth it. I'm sorry, what was the second question? The second question was, the draft strategy. Right, sorry. Yeah. So the draft strategy, I don't know. I waver. I hope this doesn't mean they're going to throw away the cornerback pick and now suddenly look to the wide receiver position and like a Jordan Addison, because now they feel like they've got that position solved. They don't. They still need to go get a cornerback. They don't have that position solved at all. They have it patched for this year or next year. But let's look, this team is not looking to win a Super Bowl this year or next year. They're looking to win a Super Bowl in maybe 2 or 3 years. And that even is probably ambitious for this team. But that being said, they still got to go out and get a quarterback. I'm just disappointed they didn't make a splash with any of these offensive linemen that are being eaten up.
We were talking about that. You know, the Commanders went out and signed Wiley from the Chiefs, which makes perfect sense with Bieniemy.
One of the Eagles' backup offensive linemen signed with the Titans to be a starter for $9 million a year.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's nothing. Offensive linemen are making like almost offensive tackles are making almost quarterback money now. They're making like 25, 35 million a year. It's big money for those guys now.
That's getting insane. So Jeff, my buddy from York, PA, chimes in. Hey guys, he thinks they're going to go after the best cornerback in round 1. Robert wants to know when they're going to start opening up more cap space. Well, I don't think it's a matter of when. It's just a matter of how. You know, I mean, that's always the issue. You want to open up more cap space so you can either retain players or get better players or sign more players. But how are you going to do it? So
Steelers have a lot of cap space, by the way. They still have a lot more that they can sign with.
I think it was like 10 million.
I wouldn't be surprised if the Steelers go defensive line in the first round, defensive tackle in particular, maybe even the kid from Pitt if he makes it to them.
For God's sakes, where are you getting your information, Schwaber? There is no way they're going to go defensive line in the first round.
Well, think about this. They have to.
I 100% guarantee, absolutely no way you can record this on your home recorders now.
It's being recorded.
Drafting a defensive lineman in the first round. If they do, I will shave my head bald.
Well, if you think about it, they have to replace Cam Hayward at some point.
Yeah, but I don't think that's on their radar right now. And they did get Leal last year. And I hear what you're saying, Schwaber, and I get it. That would be a shocker. It would just be a shocker. Now, you know, a couple years ago, they did trade up to get Devin Bush because they're linebacker crazy in this town still. So we don't know there, but I am kind of on the fence. And Jeff says DL in the first would be big. Yeah. So I kind of agree with Steve as far as the Peterson signing. I'm kind of on the fence about that one. It doesn't really give away their hand in the draft. You know, my first thought was actually they're going after Jordan Addison. That was my first thought because my opinion has not changed. They need to get an offensive lineman. That's where you get a big guy, offensive lineman. And unless things change in the next couple of days and they sign an offensive lineman, I have a feeling that's where they're going to go. And Pat says, that's a bad bet, Steve. You shouldn't go bald.
Mine will grow back, Pat. I'm not worried about it.
I love it. I love it. So, I like the Peterson signing. I like that a lot. I just question.
Well, let me ask you guys this: is the Patrick Peterson signing really any different than signing Joe Hayden a couple years back?
Other than Hayden was a couple years younger, I don't think so.
Yeah, it's a little bit different because Hayden was still considered to be a premier corner when he wanted out of Cleveland. And Peterson, everybody thinks is mostly washed up. It's past his prime.
They only think that because Minnesota's defense was horrible last year. He performed very well. He was in the top in the top echelon of corners still. So I think that's
he performed well last year. The year before, he did not perform well.
Well, okay. What happened in Arizona is they gave him too big of a contract to do too many things. He's not that good of a guy. I think at the time it was like maybe the second highest cornerback position when they signed him, and it was too much money, and he's just not that good. So if you can get him for like $5 million or $6 million a year, I think that's where he belongs, and I think he's a really good signing at that. He's definitely an upgrade over Cam Sutton at that price. So I don't know. I like it because it just plugs a hole, and it maybe makes people think they're not going to go for a cornerback now, and they'll be like, oh, it's safe. We don't need to draft a corner. We don't need to move up to get a cornerback because the Steelers already got somebody. They're not going to draft somebody. I still think that when Peasy's kid is still there with the pick, they're still going to go Mr. Junior in the cornerback position. And I don't like that pick, by the way, but I think that's what the Steelers have in their head, because we all know that Rudy is the guy who's going to make that pick, and he's already made his decision.
Yeah, and Jeff thinks they'll roll with their starting 5 linemen from last year, all young, all signed. I don't think they'll go LL at all.
That's a
in the
bad
first
idea. Really bad idea.
But it wouldn't surprise me, though. I mean, that
I agree with you there.
Yeah. There's something in the back of my mind telling me that, Jeff, that's very well could be what they do, given the quote unquote progress they made last year. I would hate to see that happen. Even if with the first pick they take a Joey Porter Jr. or a cornerback, and with the second pick they get a linebacker or a defensive lineman or another receiver, that third pick has to be an offensive lineman. I mean, you can't go into the season thinking that your OL is going to make it through the entire season without any injuries. You need somebody there. So, all right. Well, I
find it curious, though, that the Steelers are focusing on their defense. Their defense was probably their bright spot last year when it came down to it. Like, their offense needs some help. Like, clearly their offense needs somebody to come in and either shore up the quarterback so he doesn't have to run for his life, or makes better offensive line, makes better holes for Najee. It doesn't even look like they're even interested in getting an offensive lineman of value. Maybe they're looking for the value pick and they're waiting for all these big signings to go away. I wish they would just make a splash and get a big name offensive lineman. And I know last year they went out and got a couple guys. I just wish they would have just taken all of their money and just put it into one offensive lineman, and then let the rest happen. But clearly that's not the way they're thinking.
Yeah. Well, and this is definitely a far-fetched idea, but last year before the draft, all we were hearing about, and we knew they were looking for a quarterback last year. That was easy. But all we heard about was Malik Willis. And then they picked Kenny Pickett, even though Willis was available.
Yeah.
Who's to say they're not? I mean, they're actually pretty quiet this year about the draft. So
far,
we just really don't know. We just really don't know. And
Sure.
Tomlin buries himself in the Senior Bowl and in the draft process. And I hear what you say when you say it's interesting they're focusing on the defense. But if you think about it, this goes back to the point that Jeff made. Maybe in their minds, their offensive line now is starting to come together. This will be their third year playing together. They've got their quarterback of the future, they hope, this will be their third year playing together.
No, really, they got a lot of the new guys in last year.
Yeah, you're right. 2 guys last year. So anyway, so they've got their offensive line in their mind set. And on paper, you could see that it's set. Doesn't mean it's great. They've got their quarterback of the future, they hope. They've got their running back, their starting running back. And they've got, they've got their potential number 1 guy in Pickens. They have Johnson. And, after that, maybe they're looking at it and saying, hey, our offense is good. So, what they're focusing on defense. I mean, I don't know. And there's a lot more free agency to come. I did not see anybody come off the board today that I would have thought, oh, the Steelers could have used him, except possibly, you saw Widely. Again, I go back to that. Widely signs with the Commanders, but he was never going to sign with the Steelers anyway. They weren't going to go
probably not.
So they didn't miss out on anything. So, I don't know, but it's getting interesting. I'll give you guys that much.
Yeah, I agree. Of the free agents that did sign, who were you most surprised by?
Schwaber?
So far.
Who am I most surprised by?
Yeah,
Uh,
like
I
where they went, or
probably Tremaine Edmonds to the Bears.
yeah, that
You
was a little
know,
surprising.
Yeah.
and the other thing too is he's a very good player, but I don't think I don't see him as like a superstar like a lot of other people do. I just think
Mhm.
he's a very good player. Like Klein and I were talking, it's not like he's like Ray Lewis out there willing his team to victory. I
Mhm.
thought he got a lot of money,
Yeah.
for what he is, and also kind of odd because you would think that the Bears would be working to try to get more weapons for Justin Fields, and here they are making a bunch of defensive, acquisitions. Although they did get DJ Moore in that trade up for the number one pick, but
Yeah, and they got a lot
still,
of picks too in the first couple rounds. So
yeah,
even though they traded for Claypool and gave away their second pick, they still got a lot of picks.
yeah,
Yeah,
but
I think the Bears are setting themselves up. I mean, at least in theory, I can see a strategy here. And if I'm a Bears fan, I like. I mean, of course, you want to win every year, but I like what
Mhm.
they're doing. I mean, they're sticking with Fields, like Mark made the comment earlier. Hoping he can make maybe that Jalen Hurts type of step forward. And now they're going to have. Now they're going to have a whole bevy of picks next year. Their defense looks like it. They lost Roquan Smith, but they bring in Edmonds and who's the guy
Mhm.
from Philly, Edwards,
DJ
TJ
Edwards.
Edwards. You're right. So
Mhm.
I like what they're doing there. I like what they're doing there. I got to get Pat's comment in here because I have no idea what he's talking about. I'm not.
How did Avatar: The Way of Water at all approach anything in this conversation?
It's
Yeah,
the blue hue on Chris's face.
yeah, I know what he saw. Yeah, here, can I change that? Here,
I see.
let's do. Is it that what it is?
No, it doesn't look that bad. Only Pat would notice it.
Yeah, you don't look like an avatar right now.
No, no.
Thank you.
Not even
I
close.
appreciate that. Yeah, yeah. So anyway, all right. So we got that going on. Of course, we have Garoppolo. He's on the Raiders, and I gotta hear Steve's take on this.
I didn't see that one coming. Actually, I really, for some reason, just pictured Aaron Rodgers going to Vegas. I don't know why. In my mind, that's what I saw. I saw Aaron Rodgers in a frickin' black and silver jersey, but that didn't happen. I'm surprised because I thought Garoppolo was actually pretty smart and knows a good team when he sees it. So who knows? Maybe they are a good team, but man, I would not want to play in that AFC West. Are you crazy? I mean, even Denver right now, if they can get it together, they got a head coach now who is a real head coach. If and their draft, I think they got like 2 offensive linemen today in free agency. They look like Denver looks like they're getting their shit together. And now Garoppolo wants to go play for the Raiders. I don't get that. Like, I thought he was a good manager of the game, but I mean, I don't know how he can do that there. Supposedly Jacobs is probably going to stay because nobody's going to pay that franchise tag fee. So he'll probably still be there, but he'll be disgruntled. I don't know, man. I'm just so surprised by that. One thing's for certain, I'm happy that he's out of San Francisco because that means you still got the Purdy, whatever the other quarterback's name that couldn't do anything.
Trey Lance.
Yeah, Trey Lance situation. So the 49ers got that going on. Clearly, the 49ers are thinking that they still need defense because they signed Javon Hargrave to like a $21 million contract. So they're basically saying, look, we're just gonna go with defense, and it doesn't really matter who our quarterback is. But I actually thought that was a pretty good value signing. I mean, he only signed, it was like a 3-year contract for like 65 million or something like that. That's not a lot of money in today's NFL for a quarterback with a proven commodity like him. I actually think it's an upgrade over Carr. So the other thing that I thought was curious in the quarterback position was Miami. You know, everybody's saying, "Oh, Tom Brady's going to go to Miami" and all that bullshit. Well, they signed Mike White today. There's no way they're going to be able to. They're not going after Tom Brady. So I mean, clearly they got their two quarterbacks now with Tua and White. And actually, I think White's a good signing. But here's the deal: like Mike White, he signed for I think it was like $8 million or something like that, and Jared Stidham also went with somebody, and he got like $5 million a year. So you know, Trubisky at $10 million a year as a backup quarterback, it's not that terrible. You know, I'm trying to bring it back to the Steelers because if you look at those salaries, like if you look at those quarterbacks, like Mike White's not really proven. He played good when he was there, but I mean, he's not really a proven commodity, and who knows what he'll be as a backup. Chances are he's going to play with Tua, you know, with concussion protocol. So, you know, having a $10 million backup quarterback with Trubisky, he's probably worth keeping. So I actually think that makes the Steelers and Trubisky thing puts them more in a driver's seat with just keeping Trubisky, you know? So okay. I thought those quarterback movements in particular. Now, of course, we still have to talk about Aaron Rodgers going to the Jets, but that is fascinating. I just can't even believe that that's happening. Yeah. The NFL must have wanted that to happen. They must have kicked in $10 million somewhere to say, "Oh, Aaron Rodgers in New York, hell yes." Whatever it takes, let's make that happen.
Well, it hasn't happened yet. You know, Mr. Prima Donna is just trying to, you know, get as much as he can out of all of us, you know, mesmerized with the waiting process.
If Trey Wingo says it's happened, it's happened.
Yeah. Okay. So first, you know, Pat chimes in and says he doesn't want Rodgers in the AFC East, but does he? DG's got a question going back to the Steelers conference and Lamar Jackson. We'll get to that in a second, but yeah, I mean, Schwaber, you're right. And Schwaber and I have talked about this extensively. Okay. Here's the deal with the Jets. All right. And if you're a Jets fan, I feel sorry for you. Okay. The Jets are where quarterbacks go to die. Okay. And we can go down a long list, and I do this on show after show after show. Okay. Mark Sanchez died there. Boomer Esiason died there. Vinny Testaverde died there. Ken O'Brien was born, raised, and died there. Joe Namath left and went to the Rams, but he had died before that. He was the last quarterback of anything. And Steve's got his hand up with 5. I'm sure there's more. I'm not even thinking about him. Okay?
Neil O'Donnell went to die
O'Donnell went to die there. Thank you. Can't even believe I didn't remember that. Okay. I think Ryan Fitzpatrick played for the Jets. All right. Listen.
Well, he played for everybody, but yeah,
he did. Well, he did. I mean, that's kind of a push, you know. But yeah. I'm telling you right now. Okay, the Jets are where quarterbacks go to die. Zach Wilson was drafted. He sucked. Sam Darnold was drafted. He sucked. Okay, it doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. Here's why Aaron Rodgers wants to go to the Jets. It's New York, and the Giants just signed their quarterback. Okay, he wants to go to New York. He wants everybody to look at him. He wants to be a big man. And, you know, I really don't care. Go to the Jets. It doesn't affect my division. It doesn't affect the Steelers, really. You know, the Steelers, unfortunately, of course, Zach Wilson will go down all time as the guy who was absolutely. I think I watched the Steelers lose the worst game of football I ever watched in my life to the Jets last year. Remember that one, Steve? You know, yes. Zach Wilson in the fourth quarter, 10 for 12, and they beat the Steelers.
Yeah. Okay, so one shining moment.
Yeah, his one shining moment, other than his off the field antics. Yeah. So, you know, Rodgers wants to go to the Jets because it's New York, and he also wants to dick around with everybody because that's what he's good at. And he to me, as a football fan, you know, he's a non-entity now. All right. We talked about this last week. You can't, you know, when Rodgers was good, he made other players good around him. When he had good players later in his career, then they left last year, he couldn't make anybody around him any better. He's done. He's over. I don't care what anybody says. All right. That's me. Schwab. I mean, I think Mark, you agree with that.
Well, to some extent. I mean, I sense a lot of anger coming from you.
It's not anger. It's not anger. It's just like it's passion.
No, I
for
mean,
my
I
opinion.
think he could have another good year or two in him. In the right situation. Like if he goes to the Jets, would it shock me if they make the playoffs? With like a 9-7 record and lose in the first round? No, but I don't really see much more than that. I'm not seeing it as a threat to win a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
The way a Tom Brady might pose.
I don't even think Brady. Look, that's why you don't see Brady in a Jets uniform, because he may be an idiot now, but he's not a complete idiot. So,
I just hope that Rodgers is going to be okay after the darkness retreat.
Yeah, well, if he goes to New York, things will get pretty dark for him up there. I'm telling you right now. It's because it's not going to be pretty. You want to know what? I'll tell you what. I hope the guy does end up in New York. I hope it becomes a total shit show, because that's what it's going to be. And he's used to being in the spotlight, and he's a huge NFL star, but he's not the kind of NFL star that if he showed up in Berlin, people would be like, hey, that's Aaron Rodgers. If Patrick Mahomes showed up in Berlin, people would recognize him. And I think Rodgers thinks that everybody in the whole world, like he could go to the far corners of Mongolia and people would be like, he's not LeBron James. Okay. So when he goes to New York and he becomes that, and then he sucks, that is going to be fun to watch.
I'll give you Berlin, but I do feel like if Rodgers showed up in Stockholm, there'd be a crowd.
Gotcha. It's possible. It's possible. So DG says the Jets are going to suck, and I believe I believe he's right. Now Brad Trombley chimes in. Yes, that was the game last year he came to.
Oh, that's right.
And Brad. Yeah, well, that's why we didn't go. We didn't want to be part of a horrible loss. We knew that was coming. I'm just kidding. And Pat brings up, Olivia Munn, another Jets QB, Tim Tebow, sorta. Why is it that Tim Tebow's name, years after he's gone, continues to haunt the NFL?
You realize Tim Tebow's one shining moment was also against the Steelers.
Yes, let's please not relive that.
we seem to have that effect on people. We do. Okay, so what else we got? We got Garoppolo went to the Raiders. We got the Bengals. Let's go. Well, let's go to DG's question here. And what he says is it's what do we think about the non-exclusive tag on Lamar by the Ravens? I think the owners are colluding regarding fully guaranteed contracts.
Of course they are. They're the freaking owners. They own the league.
Yes.
They set the rules. But here's the deal. The freaking union signed the contract. So they're beholden to the contract. And of course it's set in favor of the owners. All contracts always are. It's not fair. It's the not fair league for those who are playing it. It's the only fair league for the rich cats who own the teams. I mean, it's as simple as that. And the reality is they need to get rid of that franchise tag if they want to be fair to the players. Or you can only do it once, and when you do it, then you're guaranteed the top 5 salary, and you can only do it once and it's over. What they do with this 3-year thing and this non-exclusive and exclusive thing, that's bullshit. I mean, I don't know why any union employee would sign something like that, not knowing that was in the contract like that, because it's too expensive for other teams to even bid against it. So Lamar will get his contract, and he'll lose 7 or 8 or maybe 10 million because of it this year. And they'll be able to do it again next year. And that's the problem. That's what's not fair is the over and over and over again of that exclusive tag that they can use. And you know what? A lot of teams don't use it because I think it does cause backlash against the league. But when you're up against it like this, look, Baltimore sucks without Lamar Jackson, and they know it. But do they want to give him a $45 million contract for 5 years, and then he busts his knee year after year after year? it's not an easy business. I mean, think about that. It's not an easy business. I mean, look, Deshaun Watson is going to make I think he's only going to make 32 million this year, but next year or the year after, his contract goes up to like 54 million. That's a ridiculous amount. But you know what? The Browns signed him to it, so he's beholden to it. So and that's what inflates all the other contracts when you talk about that franchise tag, because they take the top 3 or the top 5 and they do the average, and that's what you get. So yeah, it's definitely some collusion going on. But when it's in a contract, it's not called collusion; it's called contract negotiations.
Well, I actually find it real hard to talk about anything as it relates to these contracts and the tags and use the term unfair, when the difference between not having that tag or having that tag is still enough money that I could live on it for the rest of my life. So for me, it's kind of a, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. And I understand why they put that tag in there a few years back. It's probably like almost 20 years ago now, but
yeah, a long time.
Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, as far as colluding is going, yeah, of course, they're trying to figure out a way to minimize the impact of this guaranteed money. And I think that's really what's occurring here. I mean, because the Deshaun Watson situation, I mean, leave it to Cleveland to totally screw up this entire league.
Honest to God. They really did.
They did, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
that guy too.
Yeah, I mean, like, as far as I'm concerned, the only way Cleveland comes out looking good, and this is like a 1% chance, if that, is if next year Watson brings them a Super Bowl, which they've never won. So if next year that team plays and Watson doesn't just manage it and the whole team play great, he carries them on his back to the Super Bowl, then you can maybe say, all right, well, they've been cursed forever. They're like the Jets. Quarterbacks get drafted or go there to die, probably even more than the Jets. And they overpaid for this guy who has a little bit of an issue as a predator. And, well, they won a Super Bowl finally. Good for their fans, but it still screwed the league. I mean, it screwed the league. And so, and DG gets one more in here, that the owners are pissed that Watson got his contract fully guaranteed. Yeah, well, they're pissed at Cleveland. There are teams that would love to get him at the 36. I don't know if there's anybody that really would love to get him right now. But that's the issue, is these monster contracts being guaranteed. And I think this is where some people will make the comparison to Major League Baseball. All of their contracts are guaranteed, but they don't have a salary cap. They have a different system. Right. So if you're going to have guaranteed contracts, you've got to change the way that cap system. And I think that's more the point of what we're saying here.
Yeah, next year the salary cap goes way. The salary cap hits on these quarterbacks are ridiculous. Like Deshaun Watson's going to be 63 million. Prescott's going to be 59 million. Kyler Murray's going to be almost 52 million. Daniel Jones next year has got a $45 million salary cap hit. Daniel freaking Jones.
Yeah.
Now, what do you think about this, Steve? Because Chris and I were discussing this earlier. What do you think about a change in how everything is structured, where you have the salary cap for your 52, but you're allowed to choose one quarterback and you can pay them whatever you want? Well, because it's just so absurd now.
I actually think this may sound really dumb, but I actually think the owners can afford to give more. They love the salary cap because it guarantees them to make money no matter what happens
Mhm.
because and they have something to hide behind. I don't know what the salary cap is for teams now. Let's say it's $200 million.
I think
Okay.
it's 250 million, something like that.
Let's say it's $250 million. You know, these NFL teams, most of them are making at least half a billion dollars.
Sure.
Right. So they're pocketing half of that money, no problem.
Right.
And they're happy with it. They're spending 250 to make 250. That's a pretty good deal for them. And on top of that, if they don't even spend up to the 250, they're a little smart with their money and they get good and they make it into the playoffs and they get more revenue that way. That's just money that goes right into their pockets. So I think the league is set up for the owners to make the most amount of money. So do I wish that they just lifted the salary cap and some asshole owner wanted to spend his $450 million? Because Jerry Jones would do it. He'd be the first asshole to fucking spend $450 million on something, right? Would I love to see that Armageddon for a few years just to see what it would do to teams? Yeah, I would. But do I think that's right for the league? No, it probably isn't right for the league. But, man, that would be great for entertainment value because there would be some owner out there and be like, hey, I'll make $25 million off of this team this year. I don't care. I want to win a freaking Super Bowl. And then now my franchise is worth $5 billion instead of $3 billion. And I sell it next year, the FSG, and I'm out and I'm set for life. And my kids are set for life. And my kids' are set for life. And nobody cares. But I don't think that's right for the game. Yeah. So I think the salary cap is not fair for the players. So I think they need that. I think they need to renegotiate some of the contract stuff that's in there to make it a little bit more fair for the superstars, because the superstars would drive the money. The Mahomeses, they drive it. The Josh Allens, all the quarterbacks are making all the money for everybody else. And do I think they should lift it for them? It's an interesting proposal, but no, I don't think they should. But I think that should be factored into the salary cap in some way, shape, or form, saying, you're going to spend $75 or $100 million in the next 5 years on a quarterback. Let's just take them out of the equation and leave the salary cap where it is for the next 5 years. Everybody except the quarterback.
I love how, and I think you're right, Steve, that if he was allowed to be, Jerry Jones would definitely be the George Steinbrenner of the NFL. Yeah.
Well, the other side that's fun of that is that, there's going to be somebody who would do that and they'd still fail.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. Well, and we would obviously be hoping it was Jerry Jones.
Right.
Well,
all of us.
Kind of what happened to the Philadelphia Phillies this year.
Yeah. I
wouldn't say that. Wait. Was that a little too soon? I'm sorry.
Yeah. So I think, as free agency moves on, I think there's a lot more to come. Obviously there is. And just checking the latest highlights right now, I don't see anything that has been, looks like Sam Darnold is now a 49er. I don't know if you guys knew that.
I did, yeah. That's Purdy insurance.
That's right. Well, he's not coming back until at least September, probably, because he just had surgery last week. So I feel bad for that guy. This will be a discussion for next year, because whenever you have an injury like that, I mean, there's going to be huge question marks. I hope he can come back and play as well as he was. But anyway,
he wasn't that good last year anyways.
I thought he was fantastic. You just hated him.
Resume your love affair.
Does he have a football in the Hall of Fame like Kenny Pickett does?
Not. You're hilarious. Hilarious.
I'm just asking a question.
What's Pickett's Hall of Fame football for?
Well, he is the only rookie quarterback in the NFL ever to have 2 fourth-quarter comebacks as a rookie in his first season and back-to-back games. So There you go.
Wow.
These Hall of Fame accolades are getting, more and more worthless as the years go by. And he also did that with a 50 quarterback rating. Maybe they ought to put that underneath the card under the football.
One thing sort of Steelers related, which we didn't touch upon, which I think is a good thing. One thing Steelers related, which is a good thing. The Bengals lost both their starting safeties today,
Yeah.
and they're both
Yeah.
pretty good, Von Bell and Jesse Bates.
Yeah, and I think that's a good thing. It's just it depends on who's going to step in, but there. What do you think, Steve? Is there anything to be taken from that at all?
The Bengals lost some guys.
Yeah.
There'll be more where that came from. And no,
Right,
the Bengals are going to suck soon. You've heard it here first. I keep telling you guys this. Once they got to sign all those guys, I know I'm a broken freaking record on this, but once they got to sign their guys, actually, I think Tyler Boyd's probably up this year, right? So he's probably gone. T. Higgins is going to be gone next year, or they sign him the, $35 million contracts, and there goes another linebacker, This is what happens when you have superstars. You can't afford to sign everybody. It's just the way it works in the NFL.
We talked about that.
Their window is already closing.
We talked about that
already closing
with the Eagles. Their defense is now they have a lot of guys they're bringing back, and I personally don't think their defense is going to suffer too much next year. And we still got a long way to go between free agency and the draft, and it could end up being better. But same thing. They're having a little bit of the same issue. They want to probably extend Jalen Hurts. They're going to pay him a boatload. They got a bunch of guys on that defense, and they lost Hargrave. They were able to keep Graham, but he's got a 1-year deal. Edwards is gone, and Slay may be traded because he's a huge cap hit. And so you got to start playing that chess game. But I love this. I love this. We're going to look back 5-6 years from now, and I'm going to play every single tape of Steve saying the Bengals are going to suck this year.
Mm-hmm.
Well, unfortunately, my feeling is that if you have the quarterback, you always have a shot, and they do have the quarterback in
Right.
Joe Burrow.
They do.
Now, have the Bengals already missed out on maybe their two best chances to win a Super Bowl? I'd say they probably have. So in that respect, the window in some ways is closing. But I also think if you have Burrow, and you have some of those big time players they've always got a shot.
They got to sign Burrow this year, though. I mean, there's no way that they can't not sign him this year.
And they will.
Because that contract's only going to get more. It's only going to be more. So, I mean, if Daniel Jones can get $45 million, how much is Joe Burrow going to get? $55 million?
He's going to get a lot. He's going to get a lot.
I mean, he's going to get at least $50 million. And right now, I think his salary cap hit is like $22 million or something like that. So there goes $28 million. That's $28 million you can't sign other players with.
Well, what they're saying is, right now it's the Eagles are going to re-sign Jalen Hurts and they're going to sign Burrow. And what they're saying on Philly Sports Radio is they believe that both Burrow and Hurts are kind of playing a game of chicken to see who's going to sign first, because then whoever signs second will make more money.
Yeah, and I mean, and who knows where that's going to go? But we're going to have to move on here. We're starting to get short on time.
We are. Yep.
And Pat says the window is already closed for the Bills. Pat, sorry to have to say that. First, I want to thank you. I know, I'm just kidding. I want to thank you for listening on American Busker iHeartRadio. 150 million registered users, 2,000 devices, 250 platforms. Remind you that you can catch us on theporcheslive.com, theporcheslive.com.
theporcheslive.com.
And also drop the podcast on the iHeartRadio app, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google, Overcast, or anywhere you get your podcasts. Please give us a follow and give us a review. Before we move on to the Hockey Jesus and start the sermon, I do want to give a shout out to Pitt. Hey, look, they're in the play-in game tomorrow against Mississippi State. If we're gonna be paying attention to bracketology. So, and maybe this week we'll fill out our brackets before the games start, and we'll dive into it a little bit more next week after the first few rounds are gone. But hey, they're in. I consider them in the tournament because it's a play-in. I don't want to have this debate. It's all over sports radio. I just hope they win and they get in the real tournament. How about that? Is that good
yes,
for Steve?
They get in the real tournament. I like that.
Yeah, so congrats to Pitt, but the transfer portal has totally changed college basketball. So let's just hope they go longer into the playoffs, into the tournament. All right, Hockey Jesus, the Pens. The Pens now are 7-1-1 in their last 9. Did I get that right?
Yes, you have gotten that right.
And they did pull off the overtime victory against the Rangers. They play them on Thursday and then again on Saturday or Sunday.
They play Thursday. Actually, they play tomorrow night. They play Montreal, and then Thursday they play New York, and then they play in prime time Saturday night, 8 p.m. game.
Ooh,
yeah.
Okay. So thank you. So so take it away, Hockey Jesus. Lay some knowledge and bestow some hockey grace upon us.
So 7-1-1 in their last games. Really, the only loser in that whole 7, 8, 9 games was just an absolute debacle of a game in Florida where they got their asses handed to them 4-1. It's just like they didn't show up. It was kind of like right after the trade deadline, and you get new players coming in and old players leaving, and that game right afterwards is always weird. But after that, they played Columbus, and they kind of did the opposite in some of these games. In Columbus, they basically came out and didn't play the first 2 periods. Then they played the third period, and they went in overtime against the Columbus team, who sucks, by the way, but they won. So they won. And then they come out in New York, play New York in Pittsburgh. They play great first, second period, great second period. In the third period, they're playing okay. There's 5 minutes left, a little more than 5 minutes left in the game, and they blow the game. Just blow the game. Like right out of the playoffs of pick the last 3 seasons, 4 seasons, 5 seasons. That's how it felt. And so Philadelphia comes in. Thank God Philadelphia comes in. They're not good. They're very bad. Carter Hart's still okay, but he can't alone keep them in games. They have no talent left on that team. They don't play hard anymore. They're just trying to figure out who they are. Oh, and they just fired their GM. So that kind of worked for the Penguins to play against a decimated Philadelphia team. And then the real game was against the Rangers on Sunday. And, oh, God, they played great again. And then something always inexplicably happens to the Penguins. And it happened again against the Rangers, where Gino gets trucked by Trocheck, a former Pittsburgh kid. Then Gino trucks him back, bam, knocks him down. And then Gino's kind of going after the puck, but isn't anywhere near the puck. And Trocheck just runs him over, knocks him down. And then as he knocks him down, the Rangers get a 3-on-2 going the other way. Pens are up 2-1 at this point. And then the Rangers score to tie the game with it was 9 minutes left in the game. And it's just one of those where it was clearly an interference penalty. Clearly, the referees were caught up in the action of Gino and Trocheck kind of going after each other, and they forgot to blow the whistle. Oh, yeah, you can run over each other when the puck's near you, but you can't run over somebody when the puck is not near you. That's a clear penalty. They missed it. And, I have to admit, I really thought that was it. I was like, the damn bad playoff vibes are here. To lose to the Islanders like that, now we're going to lose to the frickin' Rangers like this. I thought they're either going to get a goal or they're not going to get a goal. I couldn't tell what was going to happen. And then in overtime, Penguins get a power play. Honestly, at this point, I'm still thinking the Rangers are going to get a shorthanded goal and just stabbed me right in the heart. Literally, I'm I called it. I texted my son Max, and I said, Max, here it comes, shorty, loser. We lose again in the frickin', I didn't say frickin', to the frickin' Rangers. And then, as I'm typing it, Letang's slapping one into the net, and they win. A really good set of wins for them. The thing is, they're dominating, but they're not. They're getting wins, and that's the important thing. But overtime wins, and I say this all the time in my podcasts, and if you're not subscribed to my podcast, you should be getting them, because I say this after every one. Overtime wins don't mean shit in the playoffs, because the overtime structure is completely different. It's 5-on-5. It's not 3-on-3. It's not a gimmick. So you don't really know what happens in these playoffs. But the good thing is the playoffs. The good thing about overtime is it can tell you if the team's, has what it takes to play in a pressure situation to win the games. And they've won their last 3. And they've won them against, Columbus, who's not a good team. But before that, they beat Colorado in overtime. And now they've beaten the Rangers in overtime. Definitely 2 playoff teams. So I think that it's good that they're winning in overtime. I just wish they would find a way to do it during the regular game, because I just don't feel confident that they'll be able to do it in the playoffs.
All right, so I'm going to step in here and remind everybody that the Hockey Jesus, who called it his podcast, it's actually our podcast, the Sports Porch podcast. The Hockey Jesus preaches on the Sports Porch podcast after every Penguins game. And I have a quote up here. I've left it up here the whole time from DG, who obviously listens to the Hockey Jesus podcast after the game, and I listen to it too. I wish somebody would stick him right in the groin. I just don't like him at all. And actually, DG, I seem to remember in amongst that quote, there was a lot of the word hate being thrown around, which I thought was hilarious. Other than the fact that he said, I guess if he played on the Penguins and did that for us, I probably wouldn't hate him. So,
and then I said, but he doesn't, so I do hate him.
Yes, that's right. That's right. So catch the Hockey Jesus live after every Pens game. Steve gets on and preaches a little Penguins action, and it gets a lot of play, man. And I listen to them all too, and I enjoy them as well. Pat says the NBA is the only league that keeps the same rules in the postseason. Listen, Pat, we're going to have Pat on. You guys, I'm making a technical director decision. We're going to do the Pat on track segment. We're going to do that on the Sports Porch.
We'll bring that to the table.
We'll bring that to the table because I mean, this comment I get, but whatever. DG says I left out the H word since he is Jesus. So, all right, guys, listen, spring training obviously is moving along, and I'm going to commit since Steve decided that he would take one for the team and commit to 62. Commit to 80 plus games of
82.
Penguins. Right. I'm not going to commit to 162 games of Pirates updates. But what we are going to do this year is we're going to focus a little bit more on baseball, if only because McCutchen is back and they do have an exciting rookie in O'Neal Cruz. And this is the kind of guy, he's either going to be a 30-30 guy or he's going to break the strikeout record. It's going to be one or the other. I mean, we know that.
Maybe both.
Plus the fact that we've got this new pitch clock. And I just think this is going to be mayhem. I think it's going to be mayhem because it's going to take them at least a year to figure this out. So
the pitch clock is actually going to prompt me to watch a game.
Yeah.
It's
I
true.
want to see all the stuff.
I'm going to because all that shit in between pitches, I don't have time for that bullshit. Yeah. Now that it's 20 seconds in between pitches, I can do that.
Yeah, it's actually working really well, and they're sticking to it. They're like, there was one game where somebody wasn't in the box in time, and it was ball 4. You got to walk. Guy comes home. Game over.
Yes, that's the way it is. It's a rule now. Yeah. Adapt or lose.
What I want to know is when we get to the regular season, are we going to have a 10 stolen base game?
Well, stolen bases should go up now.
That's what I'm saying. Are we going to have a game? I mean, it's rare you get more than 1 or 2 stolen bases.
We'll have some where there's more than 5.
No. So that's why I'm saying, are we going to have one where there's 10?
I'm going to be controversial here. There will not be that many. There are too many white guys in the Major League Baseball.
Oh, you're hilarious.
That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, you're hilarious. Okay, and now DG says, or referring to O'Neal Cruz, or we'll just sell off Cruz in the usual fashion. Yeah, and Pat, of course, brings up the past that we may or may not remember. Dragged Steve to a Pirates-Phillies game at the Vet. I don't know if he dragged you there or not, but whatever.
Where I got pummeled by the Philadelphia Fanatic. I still
yeah,
have the
that's
scars
right.
to prove it.
I remember that actually.
Never got my hat back from that game.
Really?
I was at that game. Yes, I was at that game. The Fanatic threw your hat off. Oh no, I think he took it and put it on his own head. I think that's what he did.
No, he took it. He was going to put it on his own head, and he went.
Oh yeah, then he threw it. That's right. Then he threw it. So, all right, guys, listen, everybody. I want to thank you for watching us and for listening. If you're listening on American Busker iHeartRadio, 150 million registered users, 2,000 devices, 260 platforms. Please go to theporcheslive.com. That's our website, theporcheslive.com, theporcheslive.com.
Theporcheslive.com.
And
Theporcheslive.com.
And you can also catch us, obviously, by subscribing to our podcast on the iHeartRadio app, Apple, Spotify, Google, Overcast, or anywhere you get your podcast. All right, boys, we are out. We will see you all next week.
Peace.